Hey folks, welcome back. My name's Krishna. If you're new to the channel, welcome. In this channel, we talk about tips and techniques to help you level up your digital art game. This video, we're going to take a look at how you can go ahead and create an asteroid field using some digital techniques. So let's get right into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make a brand new canvas. And this canvas we're going to use to create our pattern. So I'll start off with a 1000 by 1000 by 600 pixel per inch canvas. I also want to make sure that the background content says transparent. Very important because we're going to be creating a pattern. I'll click create. This gives me a checkerboard like background. I'll use my shaved ice brush to go ahead and create an enclosure like this. I'll make a new layer. I'll place this layer underneath the existing layer. And I want to fill this up with some type of color. So I'll use my magic wand tool. I'll make sure the tolerance is set to something like 70. And I'll click inside. And I'm going to fill this with white. So this is going to be the basis for the pattern that I'm going to create. I'll merge those two layers by holding down the Shift key. Click both layers, Command E or Control E if you're on Windows. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to choose Define Pattern. Then I'm going to give this a name. I'll just call this Asteroid. If I can spell asteroid, which I can't. Click OK. All right, so now let's open up a brand new canvas that we're actually going to apply this pattern to. I like to work with fairly large size canvases, and I use that in air quotes because my large size might be someone's small size, but I use 5100 pixels wide by 3300 pixels tall, 600 pixels per inch, and I'll click create. So now I'm ready to go ahead and actually put this pattern into play. So I'll first go up to edit, and I'll go down to where it says fill. With fill chosen, I want to select the pattern that I have. See if I can make these thumbnails just a little bit bigger. So if I scroll down here, I'll see my pattern. There we go. And I will next choose script if that isn't already turned on. And I'm going to choose random fill. There's all sorts of other types of fills that are going on here. There's spiral, there's symmetry, but we're going to choose random fill. And I've talked about some of these other scripts in previous videos that I'll try to link to in this video here under the description. So for right now, we're going to choose random fill. We're going to click OK. And then when we do, we will get a dialog. And this dialog basically allows me to control things like density. If I crank density up, I can make it more dense or less dense. I can choose how much or how little I want these individual patterns to be scaled. You can see that there's already some overlap that's taking place over here. And I also have rotate pattern turned on. So this gives you an idea. You can play with these parameters. You can't really break anything, so I would just say experiment. There's also color randomness and brightness randomness, and you can make a pattern that actually has a color within it, and you can use these two properties here to control, color randomness or brightness randomness. So that's something that we could talk about later, but I typically like to do coloring separately from laying out the composition. So I'll go ahead and click OK. And we've got all of these items here. Now, the interesting thing about this is you will notice here in the thumbnail that the rocks or the asteroids all have a white background. And typically when we color, I like to go ahead and have the colors on a separate layer from the inks. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to use the magic wand tool, and we'll click on any one of the white openings that's in this composition. So I'm on the layer that actually has the pattern applied. I'm using the magic wand tool. You want to make sure that anti-alias, contiguous, and sample all layers are always turned on. That's important. Otherwise, it'll select the entire canvas. And then I'm going to go up to where it says select, I'll choose similar. This selects all of the white within this particular layer. Now, if I hit Shift Command I, that inverses the selection, and I'll just make a brand new layer, take my black color, and I'll fill it in. Option Delete or Alt Backspace, and now I can hide the original layer. So what this does is now I have all of the asteroids. If I just turn off the background layer here, you can see that they're on a transparent layer, which is what I want. So now at this point, I have everything that I need in order to be able to create this asteroid field. These shapes themselves do not have any form, so I want to apply some contour. So I'll just pick this rock over here. I'll start adding a few lines like so. I might even add some dots just to kind of suggest that this is made out of stone. And then I'll use my paint bucket tool and fill that in. So you can see that this now has some structure or form. I'm doing that on its own layer here just because if I want to change something, I have the flexibility of doing so. I can also come back in and use the paint bucket tool to fill in specific areas with black. So if I wanted to have some negative space, I can easily do that. So I'll just go ahead and fill in a few areas like so. And then come back in, I'll do another rock here. And notice that as the lines get closer together for these inks that I'm creating, this gives us a sense of value. We're seeing light to medium to dark. And that really helps give this some structure, like so. Sometimes what I'll end up doing is I'll create other, like we've got a little tangent here where this rock appears to be touching another rock. I'll make a brand new layer and I'll just add another rock on top of it. And then what I can do is hide the other layers here. So here's another rock that I want to include. I'll fill that in. I'll magic wand tool to select everything outside of the rock, and then I'll inverse that selection, and then just simply go to the layer that contains the pattern. I'll hit Control X to cut. And now I've got something that's actually overlapping, and I'll just repeat that process here because I realized that the other layer also has that same black fill. So in this way, I can fix that tangent, but I'm also creating some more overlapping shapes. So there's a lot of, I would say, large shapes here and medium shapes. I think that this could also benefit from having some smaller shapes. So you will have to draw some rocks in here, but this technique actually gets you like, I think about 90% of the way there as you're working. So I'll fill this in, put some really tiny pieces of debris, and you can rinse and repeat. So I hope you found this technique to be useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so more folks can